I'd like to invite you into a little meditation now with a story from my life and an invitation to remember a time in your life where you may have done this. When I was a child, growing up down in Rochester, Minnesota, I remember many nights where I would go out to the front yard and lay down on the grass. I would feel the cool ground beneath me and wiggle my fingers in the soft strands of grass. Sometimes I could feel the dampness coming up from the earth. Then I would open my eyes there in the dark and look up at the sky and see above me the stars. And I would wonder in awe, what else was out there? Was this the only place with life? I couldn't imagine in the vastness of all of space that there wasn't somebody somewhere else doing something similar. And I would expand myself into that sense of being. I'd allow myself to feel connected to the space in the sky, to the swirling stars, and realize just how small a piece I was of creation. And then I might feel a bug crawling on my hand and be brought down again to the grass and the earth beneath me. And I would travel the other direction. How big was I compared to the tiny bug on my hand? How big was I compared to the molecules moving within my body? I was made up of so many tiny little pieces all working together. The synapses in my brain firing, the nerves on my skin allowing me to feel that little bug crawl along my hand, or the grass under my fingers if you're not a fan of bugs on your hands. And those two perspectives were true at the same time and left me sitting in this sense of paradox of interconnectedness. How I was both so small and insignificant, while at the same time, the moment I was in and the actions that I took were incredibly complex and mattered. And they mattered to the people around me as well. That any action I took could shift the world and the future in ways that I would never be able to understand. I'm of the generation of Men in Black, the movie. And I remember seeing at the very end of that movie, they went from aliens coming and all of this action and big hype. Oh, it's not me. They went from the big action and hype to zooming way out to that galactic perspective, and that our galaxy was part of a marble that other aliens were playing with. Right. If you haven't come back into this space from our imaginations, let's come back here now and ground yourself where you are. So this sense of wonder and awe in interdependence and the way that we are connected to each other has been part of my psyche since I was very little. And I love that this congregation has engaged with mindful interdependence as one of its core values. I think it says a lot about who we are and who we want to be together as a community. That sense of part of something, and being part of something, but not just being part of something mindfully really is different. Right? It's easy to go along with the flow, to simply let life take you where it is going to take you. In my house, to get ready for what's the next diaper that needs to be changed, who needs to be fed the next meal. It's easy to move from one task to the next without ever pausing and becoming mindful of what it is that we're doing and how our actions and ways of being and interacting affect all that we are connected to. Science tells us about the butterfly effect, right? One of the theories is that the butterfly flaps its wings and it changes all of the future. And in my house, as I mentioned, Men in Black, we are big science fiction fans and do a lot of watching of science fiction movies and wondering and imagining, trying to wrap our heads around a universe that is too big for our minds to really understand. And it leads to awe and wonder. And that has been captured previously in our faith in what was the seventh principle, right? The interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. But recently, I think many of you may be familiar, the UUA and you all, as members of the Unitarian Universalist Association, adopted a new way of expressing and understanding our values at the denominational level. And one of those new values is interdependence. So I want to read to you what the language is now around interdependence from the national level. They say, "We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life, and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damage. Harm and damaged relationships. The last word in there. And I hear in there that wonder and awe that I felt as a child, but I also feel and hear a call to focus on our relationships in ways that I have learned and grown into my ministry of understanding what justice is and means to us in our faith. This new wording of the interdependent web acknowledges our need to repair harm and damaged relationships. That being part of the interconnected web of existence and doing mindful interdependence isn't just about the wonder and awe of connection, it's also about the hard work of relationships. The hard work of what does it mean to how do we relate to one another? We talk about the whole of existence and we talk about healing and repair. To really feel a part of and understand our lives as interdependent, to me, is to understand that I am never whole or healed until I am working with everyone else on their wholeness and healing as well. You cannot have a body where one piece is working well and the other is not, and say the whole of the body is healthy. So sometimes this means another paradox, which is one of my favorite things. So we're bringing it in a bunch of times this morning. The paradox of wanting to be together in relationship and feel like we are all part of the same whole, while also needing healthy boundaries to do that in a way that is relational. Brené Brown is one of my all-time favorite authors. If you haven't read or heard of her yet, she is a grounded theory researcher, which means she goes out and talks to a bunch of people and then makes a theory from what she hears, rather than creating a theory and then going out to try and find evidence. And she does a lot of work around vulnerability and emotions and how it is that we are in relationship with one another. And all of her research keeps leading back to this same idea of mindful interconnectedness, mindful interdependence, that we need to be more aware of how we are in relationship with each other. And one of her linchpins is about trust. She has a whole acronym for trust, but trust involves boundaries and setting ways of interacting that allow each of us to have our experience and honor our own needs, while also respecting and honoring the needs of others at the same time. I asked for feedback from this community on how you understand mindful interdependence. And I heard many of you speaking about the beauty of nature and the way it grows and how the soil is rich and we are part of it, right? From ashes to ashes and dust to dust, we are part of this universe. But I also heard people talking about their pain and their hurt and the ways in which hurt people. And to heal, there has to be both separation and connectedness at the same time. One of my grounding theological concepts is sacred diversity. And to have diversity means to have difference, to have separateness, that we are not all the same mixed together stew or soup, but we are more like a salad, full of different bits and pieces, bringing our own flavors to the world. And each piece recognizes and works together with the others. So this community, the Merging Waters, newly named Unitarian Universalist Congregation, has gone through a lot of change in moving spaces, in calling a new minister, and now there is a new opportunity for creating new relationships and new change. So I'm going to close my words here for today and invite you into a way of practicing mindful interdependence in the coming months as we move into a new space and new way of meeting. But I will let Liz and Katie talk a little bit more about that.